how can people like pinpoint what region their ancestors are from?
Right. So that, as I started off with, some people do it with DNA. For me, I don't necessarily advocate that. I'm not against it.
Explain.
I'm not against it, but I don't advocate that because the fragments that we were in prior to the coming of our enemies are very much connected to the reason why we ended up in the predicament in which we find ourselves right now. So what we find ourselves doing is running back to fragments instead of the whole. This is the reason why, Nana Jacob Carruthers, Imahu Jedi Shamsu Jehuti, a lot of his work was focused on classical Kemet and Haiti, because in both of those places, that's where you found black people came together on the basis of being black, and we fought collectively against our non-black enemies. You understand? So in Haiti, you have people who are being shipped to Haiti. Some were calling themselves Fon, and the Fon, of course, were fighting against the Yoruba, and the Yoruba were fighting amongst each other. Ekiti doesn't like Oyo doesn't like Ondo, and so forth. So even inside of people who are supposed to be the same people, look at people who are now lumped under the group Akan. We'll find out if Achim get along with Asante, and then find out if Ekriapim gets along with Akwemu, and then find out if Fante gets along with Asante. Find out if these are all supposed to be one group, and they speak a mutually intelligible language. What happens and what can happen, let me put it like this, is that when you run back to a fragment, you get yourself back into the exact same position that led to us being overrun in the first place. So what I would like for us to do is focus less on the fragments that we were taken from and focus on the times that we had victories, like in Haiti. Because again, in Haiti, all those fragments were there. But when you read Nana Jean-Jacques Dessalines' Constitution, he says that all of us are les noirs, les nègres. We're all the blacks. You understand? And that's the basis on which we were able to defeat the French. We were able to defeat the British. And we were able to defeat the Spanish. Is because imagine if it was like, well, only the Fong, this is the Fong corner, so only the Fong-based speakers are going to fight against the British. It's going to get us the exact same, condition. So that's the reason why. And I find that even when people go to spiritual systems, they're like, okay, well, I'm Yoruba, and the Yoruba are having a territorial turf war against the Akans. Like, whatever people are doing with their stuff is like, what I would prefer us to emphasize is our collective identity. And trying to pinpoint the tiny fragment that you came from would lend itself more so towards what I'll use the term, quote unquote, tribalism, than it would towards what happened when we said we're all black people. All of our enemies are the non-black people. Let's fight against them collectively. Look at Nana Paul Bogle. He said, cleave to the black. Now, a lot of the people who are in Jamaica may identify as, let's say, Fanti or something. He didn't say cleave to the Fanti, right? He didn't say cleave to the Ekriapim. He didn't say cleave to the Asani. He said cleave to the black. This means all of the different kind of people, whether they came from what's now known as La Côte d'Ivoire, whether they came from what's now Ghana, whether they came from what's now Togo, whether they came from what's now Benin, whether they came from what's now Nigeria, wherever they came from, that he's saying all black people are going to fight against our collective enemies. And that's very profound because we weren't enslaved on the basis of, okay, oh, well, you're this. Okay, well, we're only going to take those people. No. And then also when it came down to the Berlin Conference, whatever you thought you were, according to all of our collective enemies, they said, all of y'all are one thing to us, and that's cannon fodder. What you think you're Fante? And I find that even to this day, those who are from the continent, whether it's Nana Kwame Nkrumah or Nana Amilcar Cabral or Nnamdi Ezekwe, whoever, they start to think differently when they go over and they realize that you're not getting, as Baba Omowale Malcolm X said, he says, you're not getting hit upside the head because you're a Mason or an Elk or you're a this or you're a that. They're not shooting Amadou Diallo. They didn't ask for his passport. They're saying all of you are our collective enemies, and we're coming together on the basis of that in order to kill all of y'all.